We have a lot to get to today. We're going to bring in the chair of both the Silicon Slopes Health Response Committee as well as the Silicon Slopes Economic Impact Committee. We're going to start with some updates around testutah.com. We have Mark Newman, who's the CEO of Nomi Health and also the chair of the Silicon Slopes Health Response Committee. Mark, give us an update.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been just crazy. That's the only way to think. That's the only way to say it. I just really want to express, frankly, my appreciation just for how hard everyone is working off of this. Or the flow is working, the assessments are working, the scheduling is working. The state is working well with us around figuring out the selection protocol, and everyone's pulling up their sleeves. We, pluses and minuses so far, is everything you can expect trying to build a car while you're going down the road. Everything from, supply chain, scheduling, labor, nurses, things like that. But we're working as hard as we can every single day to do it. From a volume and throughput perspective, we've had 57,000 assessments completed, huge number, but 2% of the state. And we can be leading the nation here, and would love to get to the entire adult population of Utah participating with us. We're also rolling out this week and weekend an ongoing engagement opportunity, so that once you participate, you can also be doing check-ins to make sure that are your symptoms changing? Are you doing okay? How could we help? Things like that, which will be first in the nation again as well. Off of that, we're up to our magic number of getting to 500 tests a day. We're ramping quickly. We have we'll call it 1.5 sites live, 2 sites really, but 1.5 fully. And we're rolling out 3 more locations this week: South Ogden, Heber, and totally blanking on the last one, which we'll circle back with. But it's working, it's coming together. We're rocking and rolling.
Mark, how are you feeling? We launched this thing less than a week ago. It's incredible, the progress already, but there is some, we do need more people to take this assessment. The assessment's a big deal. So can you talk about why the assessment's important and ways that the Silicon Slopes community can rally to get more people to take that?
Yeah, the assessment is incredibly important because it's a pulse check. It's a temperature check on the entire state. Whether you're symptomatic, asymptomatic, whatever, if you've been exposed around people, at a certain point, we have to recognize we're all in this. And what we want to have is, since we know data is the best way to lead a lot of decision making and a lot of ways for us to get back to living and get back to work again, we're focusing in on the three key pieces: assess, test, and trace. Because we want to understand where people need help, where are we seeing hotspots inside the state, and what support do you need, and how do you access testing on there. So ultimately, the ways the Silicon Slopes community can help is just be pushing it out to your employee bases, into their families, onto your social channels, church community, you name it. We want people to participate. It's the fastest way to access testing, and the testing is free. There is no cost to go and participate. We just want to make sure that the people in Utah are getting the care that they need, the access that they want, the testing that they need to build.
And I want to give the numbers that Mark showed on the screen there. Every day, Silicon Slopes is going to put out the update from the previous day's numbers, as well as the cumulative numbers. Every day on our various social media channels. We'll do that at 10 a.m. That's the goal. The goal is to do it every day at 10 a.m. It may be a little after. It'll unlikely be before, but it'll be at some point at 10 a.m. We will put out the numbers from the previous day, as well as the total numbers of the entire initiative every single day throughout our social media channels. So stay tuned to that. And I just want to double click on what Mark just said on the importance of taking the assessment, even if you do not have symptoms. It is critical for every Utahn to take this assessment. I would challenge everyone on watching this, both live and later on, whenever you're watching this instead of Netflix, this is a much better show than what you'll find on Netflix, by the way. Please use the hashtag Test Utah Challenge. Please tag 5 other people, and let's get that rolling as much as we possibly can. We're running ads on this. This is on billboards. If you're driving around, you'll see billboards. We're running social media ads on this. We're doing a number of different campaigns to get the word out. But your help here to get more people tested and excuse me, more people taking the assessment is critical. So testutah.com is the way to do that. Test Utah Challenge is the hashtag. Mark, anything else you want to tell the community at this point?
Yeah, it's the question was about how is it getting out there? We've only heard about it on town hall. 60,000 assessments got done completely organically, which is really awesome. But we're just getting started. And for those of you driving down I-15, even UDOT got involved and started posting it on their billboards, which is fantastic. So we're just getting started. Utah. We've always punched above our weight class. We always want to do things differently, and we're always leading the way. And what we're coming together here on is an amazingly progressive program that is unexpected to come out of the states in general across the country. We've been talking to all the other states that are asking us what's going on. It is just such a huge opportunity for us to kind of prove our mettle, show what we can do. More importantly, get back to living, get back to living our lives, getting back to work. So just come and participate, come and engage, help spread the word.
Mark, we got another question, which is kind of interesting through the chat here. They're wondering, is it possible to integrate testutah.com onto the state coronavirus website and have them update daily how many citizens have taken the assessments right along with coronavirus stats? I don't know that we have an answer to that, but what do you think?
Yeah, we don't, but that's a terrific idea because usually we've all been focused on returning back the test volumes because that's obviously what gets reported on a daily basis. But we'd love to feed them back the assessment volumes as well. They obviously see them and have them. It would be a lot of fun to make them public. So we'll work on that. Thanks for the product feedback.
Yeah, that's a good idea to integrate that directly with the state of Utah. I think some of the results that we're posting, the numbers that we're posting from the previous day, we're probably putting that out a little bit faster than the state would be my guess. I think there's a little bit of lag on what goes into the state. And so we just want to be as transparent as possible on assessments and numbers of things. But I love the idea of integrating that with the state. So we'll work on that. All right. So yeah, go ahead, Mark.
What's super cool, we've talked with a lot of other states because people are asking, what are we doing with Test Utah? And we are in the kind of the world of first class problems here, not third class problems here. I mean, our state is rocking it when it comes to getting that data, doing the public briefings, doing it every single day, keeping people up to date. And so it's a lot of fun to participate.
Now I want to go to the chair of the Silicon Slopes Economic Impact Committee, Traeger Grill CEO Jeremy Andrus, to get an update on everything that committee's doing. Jeremy.
Yeah, hey, Clint. Mark, great update. Love the progress there. Clint, let me sort of update on 3 things that I think are relevant to the community right now and some of the work that we're doing. First of all, the PPP program, in theory, went live on Friday, April 3rd. And it's been a little bit of a cluster. Any entrepreneur that's applying for these loans knows that there's a lack of clarity. The application changed. Banks that had expected to be taking applications on Friday, some of them didn't even start until yesterday. And I think the good news is that there are some local organizations like Lendio, like Divvy, on the bank side, like America First Credit Union, that really got out of the gate quickly, and they're doing some good things. But it's complicated, and that's the bad news. The good news is that the money didn't go. The $350 billion didn't go as fast as expected because it has been such a challenge. I mean, even Wells Fargo, very quickly backed out of this, and so. Local businesses, we should still be highly focused on accessing this capital. So that's sort of update number 1. The second piece, which I think is really cool. The work that this committee is doing. We went from having sort of a fairly entrepreneurial, tech focused megaphone and access to the community, and we started posting content and we started collaborating with other organizations, and we now have very good access to small to medium sized businesses, sort of mom and pop Main Street businesses around Utah. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the working capital is so critical. They haven't raised, big venture capital dollars on their balance sheet. And we want to make sure that we're speaking to sort of this broad spectrum of Main Street businesses. So happy to report that we are now in contact with 180,000 registered agents of small businesses, sort of managing members of LLCs. And they're actually being really responsive. I mean, they're really showing interest. So, for example, sent out an email a couple of days ago. We had 41% open rate, which anyone in direct marketing knows it's astronomical. 82% of those who opened the email actually read it. So they're seeing the content, they're engaging, it's clearly speaking to the need. The survey that we reported on last week had about 150 respondents. We already this week have 2,400 respondents to our survey. And so we're seeing like this very broad cross section geographically, across industry. A lot of sole proprietors are responding. And so we're feeling really good that we have the ear of these small businesses. Unfortunately, what we're learning from them is that, not surprisingly, this is a devastating moment. 65% of these small businesses said they were either slightly likely to extremely likely to permanently close their doors because of COVID. 35% of them said they were extremely likely to shut their doors. So this is who we have to get to. This is who we need to help. Slopeserves.com is actually receiving, we've put up some great content there. It's a start. We're adding to it every day, but it's being well trafficked. We sent out a message via text, and this week already we've had more than 700 small business owners access and pose questions through the bot. 1,923 questions, and they are primarily focused on, if you sort of look at the category, it's about capital. Where do they get capital? How do they manage this trough? So, there's sort of good news, bad news. Good news is we are engaging. Tough news is we've got a lot of work to do as a community to help these small businesses. The third piece, and I think it's a good segue from, what we're learning from these small businesses, how can we help further? And so we started by really trying to create great content, sort of self-service content around emergency checklists that a small business owner should be thinking about. How do they access capital? How do they calculate what they have access to? What are the most commonly asked questions? And we're now trying to move beyond that and get a little bit deeper and actually customize questions to their specific needs. And so we are launching tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. What we are calling the Silicon Slopes SMB series. The first one will be focused on, the title will be PPP Deep Dive. Paycheck Protection Program Deep Dive. And we're going to take some of these topics that are timely, and we're actually going to create an expert, a panelist that's filled with experts, and we're going to dig into questions, and we're going to go very deep in this panel. So we've got a couple of people that run accounting firms. They're seeing the small business landscape, the questions they're asking on these loans. We've got Shane Edwards from Squire, Stephen Brown is moderating. But we've also brought in a couple of these companies that I mentioned that I think are doing a really nice job here locally. Divvy, tremendous progress, like really creating a scalable way to take applications, process them. They've got a financial partner that they're working with. Lendio is another one that's doing a nice job. I mentioned that, we've got a great local bank credit union, America First Credit Union, who was probably the first in Utah to start taking PPP loan applications on Friday, and they're processing a lot of them. So we've got Blake Weathers from America First joining. This is an opportunity for us to curate questions, to really truly reach out to folks whom own small businesses, get them to participate tomorrow at 5 p.m. for 90 minutes. We're going to go deep. We're going to develop a library of content that is very specialized to specific topics, and we're going to do this every week. And I think it's fair to say that this thing is fluid and it's evolving. And so we're surveying the small businesses every week, and we're saying, what are you struggling with? How can we help you? And we're just going to continue to pull together the right panel of experts. We're going to ask what's troubling our small businesses. How do we get answers to them? And how do we really create sort of this one-on-one dialogue where we can actually be helpful? So those are the things that we're focused on. I think we're making good progress. Unfortunately, the pain is out there, and this is a bit of a race against time to help them.
And so the thing that you're talking about, just so everyone's clear watching this, is every Thursday at 5 p.m. Is that right, Jeremy?
Correct. Yep.
You're going to be doing, and you're going to be hosting, along with the Economic Impact Committee, basically an Silicon Slopes economic town hall, right? What are we calling this thing?
So it's the Silicon Slopes SMB series, and then we're going to pick a topic. Tomorrow it's PPP deep dive loan application. And we've got a number of topics that we're sort of queuing up, but we're actually going to decide, by Tuesday, we're going to figure out exactly what is the most important thing that we should be talking about this week. And we're going to organize a panel of experts every week that can really speak specifically to those topics.
And that'll be streamed live on all of Silicon Slope's social media channels. So tune into that. That's tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. And every week thereafter. Jeremy will be hosting that on behalf of the Silicon Slopes Economic Committee. Definitely tune in. A deep dive on everything happening there is well worth your time if you're a small business owner. It's a Silicon Slopes SMB series. Jeremy, I want you to stay on because we're going to bring in Ben Davis, the Chief Revenue Officer of Lendio, to talk about this PPP process and give people an update who are going through it and have questions. Ben, give us a sense for how this is going.
Yeah, thanks, Clint. We are starting to see, I would say, some encouraging signs. I still think by far the vast majority of small business owners are feeling left out. And probably our biggest concern is that there is a very significant portion of small business owners that actually right now technically are being left out of the program. Demand's obviously huge across the board. The need is huge. By the end of the day today, Lendio will have nearly 9 billion total in applications. That's a pretty big number. Talk about the lenders for a little bit. So we have hundreds of both referring institutions and lenders that are on our platform. If you kind of put the financial institutions into buckets that are trying to help small business owners access these, or that want to try and help small business owners access these funds, you put them into these 4 categories. There's 14 non-bank SBA approved lenders. They are trying hard. They've got some challenges with meeting certain know your customer, know your borrower requirements, but they are trying hard to fund, and we're starting to see trickles there. Then the next category would be all of the banks and credit unions that were SBA approved before this happened. We're also seeing some trickle, some funding to start coming through there. They still have some processing challenges, but I think those are improving. And then you've got FDIC banks that were not SBA approved before, and then you've got a bunch of fintech lenders that are trying to be approved, and we hear they will be approved to be able to help these small business owners. The challenge is if you're a small business owner right now, let's take two restaurants that are right across the street from each other. They both do great work. They both delight their customers. This thing hit. They both kind of went into shutter mode. If the one happens to bank with a bank that is not SBA approved, and the other one banks with one that is SBA approved, the one that is banking with a bank that is SBA approved is in a better position. They still may have some delays, and that bank may be one that's on our platform that's saying, hey, we're not ready yet. Can you send our customers somewhere else for us? But if you're with one that isn't approved, then you're in trouble right now, because everyone is only focusing on their own customers. And so it creates this inequity that is really tough for some small business owners to really understand. And even if in many cases, as I think a lot of people have seen in the news, even if the bank is approved, they may just be lending to those that, have an active open credit account or something like that with them. And so it's a tough time, and small business owners just aren't sure whether they're going to be included. I would say one of the things we're telling people is we continue to get reassurances from the legislators and the people that we're working with that, hey, the funds will be there. This isn't, as Jeremy kind of said, these aren't evaporating immediately like there. I think some people had some concerns. Obviously, for a small business owner, if you can say, hey, it'll be there eventually. And as Jeremy alluded to, eventually might not be soon enough for them. And that's really scary. That's really, really concerning. So we are working as quickly as we can. We are trying to be as helpful as we can to small business owners. We're telling them, listen, whether you find funding here or find funding elsewhere, we will help you get those docs together and try and get them submitted, even if we send the package and you can take it to your bank. We're trying to be as helpful as we can, because we recognize these are tough, scary times for them.
Ben,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. We have a question from someone watching this for you. And the question is, if you've applied through a big bank, but want to move to Lendio or Divvy, can you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and there's been a lot of, I think, misinformation out there about this. Originally, in the original application, there was some interpretation of the original application, that the small business owner had to attest that they had not applied anywhere else. And so people were kind of saying, well, I can only put this in one place. That's been changed. In that application, it now just says that you're not going to take funds from multiple places. So think of it, it's somewhat similar. There are some nuances, but it's somewhat similar to any other loan, a car loan or a mortgage, where if you're looking for a mortgage, you're probably going to shop a couple different banks, but obviously you're not going to sign closing documents for your home with multiple banks. And so there will be a time as you get this funding that you will have those closing docs. And so we have told people that certainly, if it were me, I would say I'm not trying to encourage people to go put just shotgun applications to every financial institution out there, because the system is already clogged. But I would judiciously try and place things. I think placing one in a marketplace like Lendio essentially as a marketplace will do that for you. As the lenders on our platform start having more bandwidth, we will submit those applications wherever there is bandwidth for you. So I think I would recommend to them to apply at Lendio. And certainly if their bank is a funding institution right now, apply there as well.
Thanks, Ben and Jeremy. If you both will stay on just for a second, because we also have a representative from the SBA here, and I think this conversation is important that we can dig a little bit deeper. But I want to move to an incredible announcement that happened on Silicon Slopes Live earlier today through Intermountain Healthcare and Dr. Marissa Henn. And Dr. Henn, I'm not going to steal your thunder, so please, this is a much bigger audience than the live. Tell everyone what you announced today.
Yeah, well, what we announced earlier today is that Intermountain is launching a new emotional health relief hotline. It's available to the whole community, to the whole state. Anyone who is experiencing the normal stresses or maybe even heightened mental health challenges that can exist during these unprecedented times. The hotline has a phone number. It's 833-442-2211. It's totally free, open 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. We offer 20 languages. I didn't know there were 20 languages to do over interpretation, and really hope you'll help spread the word to provide some support to people who are really experiencing distress right now.
Dr. Henn, what advice do you have for those leaders on this call who are leading teams who they themselves are experiencing this abrupt lifestyle change to manage the mental health of both themselves and their teams?
Yeah, well, as we talked about earlier today, I think examples like Johnny Hanna's in really leaning into an acknowledgement that we're all a little bit fragile right now. And that's okay, that's normal, and that we need to use that as a reason to reach out and talk to trusted people. Some of us might have those individuals in our lives. Some of us might really benefit from that kind of hotline that we're announcing today. But fundamentally, reminding your teams, reminding your organizations that things really will get better. And just as we've faced these challenges in the past, maybe not quite of this nature, but many of us have overcome challenges, and we need to draw on that same skill set as we come together and really ensure our own mental well-being before putting the oxygen mask on someone else.
And finally, Dr. Henn, there's a lot of parents who are watching this right now who have added to their responsibilities throughout the day of homeschooling their children. What advice do you have for them?
For sure. I mean, as we talked about, just being gentle on yourselves at a time when it is so challenging to be balancing the demands oftentimes of career, of keeping each other safe, and then also of homeschooling. So just recognize that your kids are going to be okay. You don't need to be the most incredible teacher in the world. They will be resilient just as you are demonstrating resilience to all of them. And so show them how you are demonstrating calm and courage. They will mimic that behavior and find ways to really talk about the issue in a developmentally appropriate way through things like play, not just kind of watching the news, which can sometimes be more anxiety producing for kids than it is helpful. But really appreciate all your support, Clint. Silicon Slopes has been such a leader in this mental well-being arena, and Intermountain couldn't be more proud to partner. And we just really appreciate you all spreading the word about the emotional health relief hotline. Again, it's 833-442-2211, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And you don't have to be at a heightened level of distress. This is for people who are coping and stressed out, just like many of us are at moments too. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Hanna. And right back at you and Intermountain Healthcare on behalf of Silicon Slopes. We can't thank you enough for everything you're doing, both on the mental health side. This is such a huge program. I'm so excited that this announcement came today and everything that you've spun up here, but also everything Intermountain Healthcare has done on the testing side to spin up more locations around COVID-19, everything they're doing on the healthcare side and everything in between. It's been unbelievable. So many people from IHC are on the front lines of this crisis, and without them, Utah would be worse off. So really appreciate IHC, and thank you, Dr. Henn. I want to again to give people the number to call for this emotional health relief hotline. It's 833-442-2211. Might make sense to spread along to your teams here and anyone who, this is for all Utahns. It's not just for healthcare workers or medical providers. It's for all Utahns. So 833-442-2211. Thank you, Dr. Hanna. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
We have from the SBA, and again, I want to bring in Ben and Jeremy for this part again. We have Siobhan Carlisle. Did I say that right?
It's Siobhan.
Siobhan, I knew that. I'm so actually
Sorry.
I didn't know that. I am the worst at pronouncing names. So
Oh,
I apologize.
no
Actually,
worries.
you just pronounced it correctly, and there's no way I'm even going to attempt again because I know I'd get it wrong again.
That's
But thank you for coming on. We have on with you the chair of the Silicon Slopes Economic Committee, which is Traeger Grill CEO Jeremy Andrus, as well as the Chief Revenue Officer at Lendio, Ben Davis, to talk about this PPP program. And I'm going to let them weigh in and ask you questions as we go here. But from the SBA, see, I can't even get the acronyms right, let alone people's names. From the SBA point of view, can you give us an update?
Well, we're at a week in now, almost a week in, and the wheels are turning. I know there has been a lot of talk about the challenges for sure, but we did get some good numbers today, or at least some numbers today that that the number of loans, I just had it in my hand, 400,000 loans have been approved, and it's totaling about $100 billion. And so we were told we could, share that number. So that is some good news. I think.
Wait, just to clarify,
yes,
is that for the entire country, or is that just
that's
for Utah?
national number.
Oh, that would be awesome if that was just for Utah. But
So yes, that's a national number. So
do we have the Utah numbers?
no, I don't have Utah numbers, but I can write that down and as something that you'd be interested in.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many of those were Utah loans and how much money that Utah is getting. Ben, do you have anything from the SBA side? Any maybe it might be a good sense to give some feedback on what you're experiencing on your end, or any questions you have here.
Well, first of all, let me say, every time I chat with some of our friends from the SBA, you guys are doing hard work, and I realize you guys are getting beat up a lot, and so thank you for the hard work that you guys are doing. I know that you are trying to get this out as quickly as possible. I know that you spun up a program to lend 10 times what you would normally do in a year and do it in a month. So kudos to that, and we know you guys are all working really hard. If I could ask a couple questions, I'd say, do you have any insights to one, how quickly we can get some of the fintech lenders approved so that we can start, the ones that are kind of built for this kind of speed and volume? And then I might ask when you think we'll hear more about the back end liquidity for banks. I think a lot of these, especially the smaller banks that don't have big balance sheets, are waiting for guidance or comfort on that, on the liquidity issue. So those would probably be two of the questions that I would
Sure.
ask.
And actually, can I give you Carl? Do you know Carl Wernick?
Uh-huh.
Can I give you his email so you can
No.
shoot him an email for those two questions? Probably be the most expedient way for you.
Yeah. Do you want to just DM him?
I can write it. I can just type it in.
Let me just give you my email. I'm Ben at Lendio.
At
Just
Lendio?
Ben at Lendio, and you can share that with me.
Okay.
I want to give actually our esteemed Senator Mitt Romney has an hour ago tweeted out some Utah numbers. And I'm going to just read his tweet. He says, as of last night, 3,489 Utah employers have received $718,878,690 through the PPP program, forgivable loans to ease the burdens of COVID-19. As the Senate continues to work on further relief measures, I will keep pushing for additional support for our small businesses. Jeremy, one interesting thing, I don't know if you saw this, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, I believe it was yesterday, although all the days have kind of blended together here, said they are going to, probably put some more money towards the PPP program. That seems like a good idea, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a big deal. First, let me comment on that number. 400,000 loans and $100 billion have been put out. and $18 million of that, if I round up, has gone to Utah small businesses. That's a scary small number. That is that really concerns me that we are not getting anywhere close to our fair share of the dollars, and we've got to figure out why. That's a big deal.
It's a 700. It's over
718.
700 million. Sorry, Jeremy.
Okay, I heard so $700 million. So we're still getting
It's
less,
over 700 million. Yeah.
less than 1%, 7/10% of the total output. One of the things, and I guess that to that question, Clint, that this is, I'm not surprised that they're talking about replenishing that pool of capital. It's really, although $350 billion sounds like a lot, it doesn't go that far when you think of the number of small businesses across the country. So I guess one of the things that I would suggest to small businesses, if you feel like you're behind the curve in the application process, Siobhan, thanks for sharing those numbers. $100 billion in the first sort of 4 or 5 days of 350. First of all, don't be discouraged. Get your application in. And the second is high likelihood that gets replenished with some pool of capital. It may be the same size. Continue to work on your application. Get it in as soon as possible. Siobhan, one of the things that that concerns me as I talk to banks is that there's a little bit of a misalignment, which is banks don't view this as a profitable program to administer. I mean, this is sort of like it's break even at best for them. And what I hear from these banks is their priority is existing portfolio, and it's larger loans before smaller loans. And I understand, this is an economic alignment issue, but I worry about, the Main Street businesses that they're less sophisticated. They're likely going to be deprioritized. What sort of advice and Ben, to you as well, what advice do we give to these smaller businesses that they're either struggling to complete the application, they don't currently bank with a preferred SBA lender, or they're feeling like they applied and their application is sort of sitting under the pile of a lot of larger businesses? And the conversations that I've had with folks that have received funding, they are, on the larger end of businesses, and they've tended to have, sort of a lot of assistance in preparing applications. How do we make sure that Main Street small businesses don't get left behind?
So for us, we encourage anyone that is feeling like they need assistance with their application to please reach out to the Small Business Development Center Network of Utah, that they are helping people with these challenges. And they have a lot of information and a lot of experience, with doing applications and that kind of thing. So you can find them on sbdc.org, UtahSBDC.org online, and they have different locations all around the state, about 14 locations. So if you're from Layton or Kaysville, there's a Kaysville location, and they're still doing a lot of what they're doing is telework as well, but they are definitely taking calls, and they're definitely helping people digitally, from afar or whatever. So that would be one of my recommendations, would be to reach out for help, also to call our office if they feel like they need more help with their application process, and so we can lead them in the right direction. And our number is 801-524-3209.
Awesome.
Ben, same question to you on that.
Yeah, I agree with Jeremy. Those numbers made me sick to my stomach. Really, both of them. I mean, at 400K small business owners, it's still only 1%. It's no wonder that small business owners are just feeling left out in the cold. And I would say, I mean, I agree with Siobhan. There are SBDC reps out there that are trying to be helpful, but they're going to run into the same challenges. And I think it's important that our legislators and that people know the situation that is out there. And 100% agree with Jeremy. These smaller banks, we're seeing the same thing. The vast majority of the loans have gone to the largest applicants that are looking for the largest loans that have the most payroll and that have the most debt to the bank that is helping them get the funding. And that is concerning. I would say get active. Lendio's, if you don't follow Brock Blake on Twitter, I would recommend that you do. He's trying to lead an initiative that's actually why he's not on this call right now, to make these stories come to the top. So I would say follow Brock and share your stories for small business owners, because until they help some of the back end liquidity issues so that banks can lend off of their balance sheets to help and get replenishment quickly, and until they get some of the fintech players that are truly built for volume and speed on these types of loans, this is not going to go quickly enough. And Jeremy's right. It is the small, it is the plumbers and the restaurant owners, and it's the ones who are just looking for a little bit to try and keep the doors open. Those are the ones that are going to suffer if this goes too long. So I would say get active and share those stories. I think Brock has done a good job. He's been advocating on CNN and a bunch of other channels and had good response from legislators. I would say help with that effort, because they need to know how painful this is. Those numbers are very worrying.
Jeremy, it is disheartening that less than 3,500 Utah businesses have gotten this so far. I want to reiterate the website. It's actually utahsbc.org. That's utahsbc.org, and the phone number is 801-524-3209. Jeremy, what do we do? How do we get more Utah companies? I mean, 3,500 or less than 3,500 Utah companies. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah, Clint. So I'd say a couple of things. One of the things that we're working on the Impact Committee is building a dashboard with Domo that tracks not only total origination in Utah, the Utah mix of that, but actually the banks that are participating. How many loans have they processed? How much have they funded? And I think part of this is like in making that public, and we're asking folks to participate, and we'll ask Lendio to participate, and Divvy and Zions, is I think it's important that there's some public accountability. These banks lend and do business in this community, and this is a moment where we need them to, not look at these SBA loans as a break-even proposition, but an opportunity to support the community that they make money in all of their other products. So that's something that we're focused on. I think, unfortunately, it's taken Zions a little while to really get moving on this. The application change. This is like in their defense, it changed late in the process. They've got to get the tech right. It took them a little while to get going. And I think that hurt our fair share a little bit. Awesome that Lendio is able to scale this. I know that Divvy now has a really, really scalable ability to service some of the smaller businesses. And so I think we're a little bit late, but I see some really great efforts in the community with those that participate in processing, originating these. I think we're going to catch up, and I think we got a little bit of a late start, and maybe not unlike some others, but I think we have enough really good players that we're going to make up ground, and we're going to get at least our fair share, if not more.
And I just want to encourage everyone and reinforce this point to watch the town hall that Jeremy will be putting on tomorrow at Thursday at 5 p.m. I think that is critical. The more noise we can make around this, the better. It's the Silicon Slopes SMB series every Thursday at 5 p.m. Hosted by our chair here, Jeremy Andrus. The website, I think I've given that wrong 18 times so far. I'm getting tons of texts here. So it's utahsbdc.org. utahsbdc.org. And again, the phone number 801-524-3209. But as mentioned, like local banks, I think Lendio, Ben, what you and Brock are doing is heroic work, my friend. Thank you for everything you're doing. Everyone check out Lendio. I also want to acknowledge Blake Murray and the team over at Divvy. How quickly they spun that up is just unbelievable. And I think that's going to be huge for our community. So also, work with these local companies here in Utah, work with Lendio, work with Divvy, and let's put some pressure on these banks and the SBA and the government to, we got to get more than less than 3,500 Utah companies getting this money. That's going to be unacceptable if we hope to get through this thing okay. Finally, I want to end with my good friend, Simplest CEO Ryan Westwood, who one of the great leaders here in the state of Utah, has built one of the great companies here in this state, and has always had such a great culture at Simplest. And I'd love, Ryan, if you could talk about how you're maintaining that culture and give some advice to those watching during this time now that everybody's working from home.
Hey, Clint, thanks for having me on. Thank you, everybody. A couple thoughts that I have. I had a conference call about a week ago with one of my employees, and she talked about how she hadn't had a hug in over a month. And that kind of set in, and I thought to myself, some of us have all this commotion and we have families at home. This woman had not had a hug in over a month. And I think sometimes we can forget that there are people that are lonely, or individuals or employees that are not able to connect with other people. And so what we started to do is run these remote Zoom activities at night with our employees. And it's been a big hit. And here's some of the things that we've done. I would encourage your employers to do some of these things. The surveys from our employees have been unbelievable. But I think these are some practical ideas that are either inexpensive or don't cost anything. And so one of them we did is we hired a chef, and we told everybody to put their laptops in their kitchens, and we cooked a dish together at night as a company. And it was remarkable how people were laughing and connecting and cooking dinner together. And we haven't let the distancing get in the way of increasing morale. The other thing that we did recently is we sent Ubereats gift cards to employees. And then what we did is we had a game night. And so we got on Jack in the Box games. People can watch on the audience and other people get in, and we played games together and had food and dinner as a global company. So we had 600 people on Zoom with our families playing virtual games and eating dinner together. And this has kept morale up and the energy up with our employees.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Can I jump in quickly? Did I hear you say you were cooking in the kitchen with your company and not on your Traegers on your back deck?
Oh my gosh, that was a huge oversight.
That's it.
Yeah. Maybe that's planned on deck for next week, and I just forgot to mention that, Jim. So another thing that we have done is dance. We've done dance classes where we actually had a dance instructor get on Zoom and do different classes with our employees. Another one we have planned is a virtual charity auction. So everybody can, you get on, you bid, and we do this. We've done this online with virtual auctions, and our employees have had just these types of remote things. I think sometimes we don't realize that we can keep connecting remotely with our families and with our employees at nights. And there's a lot of ways to do that really keep morale up and make people, maybe employees that are feeling alone, they can be rejuvenated and connect with people that care about them. I think it's a great way for employers and employees to connect. And I'm a strong believer that when people are collaborating and connecting outside of work, when tough times come, we ride through them in a different way. because we have deeper relationships. So those are just a couple, practical things that we're doing at Simplest that I think if employers did would help morale at their companies while people are feeling a little bit more on edge.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. I want to give a few updates, a little bit of housekeeping here. This is the last town hall of the week. We've gone to just doing 2 every Monday and Wednesday at 4 p.m. I think you could even expect us to go down to 1 at some point as we get a little bit more focused in and we start spinning up programs like the Silicon Slopes SMB series, like Jeremy's hosting. We don't want to overwhelm everyone. I think, eventually these town halls will begin to break off into hyper focused around the issues that matter most. So I would encourage everyone to tune into the Silicon Slopes SMB series tomorrow at 5 p.m., streaming exactly the same way that this one is streaming. Also want to make sure, issue the challenge one more time before we end here to get everyone to take the assessment. Please do everything you can to send people to testutah.com. Use the Test Utah Challenge hashtag. Get as many people to take that assessment as possible. We need every Utahn to take that assessment if we want to get every Utahn who wants to be tested. So that's testutah.com. On the economic side, slopeserves.com has kind of been the hub for most of that stuff. Go to slopeserves.com, take the survey, anything that we can do to help there, give us feedback on the type of programming that should happen with the SMB series. There's a lot of S's in that title. And then so go to slopeserves.com, and also on slopeserves.com is the One Utah t-shirt. All of the funds generated from the One Utah t-shirt goes directly to the Slope Serves fund to combat COVID-19. Make sure you check that out. That was all put together by Cotopaxi CEO Davis Smith. So do all that. That's a lot of website. That's a lot of homework. But the next one of these will be Monday at 4 p.m. Thank you all for tuning in, and make sure you check out Jeremy's series tomorrow. Thanks so much.